Scranton, Italia.
Did you hit record? All right. Well, fucking awesome show with Barry.
Yeah.
We're going to do a follow-up show now.
It's just like how this all fell into place is pretty freaking unbelievable.
We definitely gotta think of something for Linda. I think we're gonna send her coffee. I think we gotta send her flowers. Yeah. We got to give her a big thank you more than a phone call.
That's pretty cool.
All right, but let's get going. Welcome back to 217 South Mills. We're doing sort of a follow-up bonus episode based on what we previously just did, interviewing Coach Barry Alvarez.
Absolutely. And our podcast 217 is brought to you by Cabin Coffee Altoona, located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane in Altoona, Wisconsin.
I really thought with all those twos you were going to get a little confused.
You know what? Every time I say those together, I almost screw it up. But
you held it together. You did good. So let's get into this interview we just did with Coach Alvarez from Linda Wilkins, his old secretary at the University of Wisconsin. You know, from reaching out that first phone call, we thought it was flipping a coin, but we're like, screw it. We're going to flip that coin. And, you know, the answer is always no until you ask the question. And we asked, and she's been a saint for everything she's helped us do. To him getting here, let's address that right away.
So previously in our podcast, we talked about, never being late and that 15 minutes being ready to go before the scheduled time. So we're up here, we're all set up, we're waiting to go. And like, oh, you should be here. We'll head down there in like 10 minutes. We're going to be 20 minutes ahead of time just to make sure that we're here.
Because we're thinking, based on our schedule and based on what we said on the show, we're thinking, we said, just to go the exact times, we said 10 o'clock.
Yep.
Linda tells him 10.
Yep.
His schedule, I was informed that it was put in the schedule at 10 o'clock. So we both agree he's probably showing up at 9:45.
Correct.
So we say we're going to get downstairs 9:35, maybe 9:40 at the latest, but we're going to be 5 to 10 minutes early.
Absolutely.
We're up here sort of putting stuff together, dilly down a little, just trying to get ready to do the show. And we get a text at 9:28, I'm in the lobby. And we're like, oh shit.
And it was that, oh shit, I'm late again. Or I'm late for practice, or I'm late for weightlifting. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't even have like my shirt on. So I was flying around here trying to get dressed and run out the door. But yeah.
I'm texting him back. And the moment I hit send, I'm like, we'll be right down. Send. I get a pit in my stomach thinking he might have us run in the parking lot before we come up to do the interview. Like, it was crazy. But so we go down, we meet him, we bring him up. He's got his good buddy, Danny, who's been friends with him forever. And it was just all a hit. We shot the shit a little bit before the show started. And then as they're going to see when that episode drops, we had an absolute blast. I mean, he was the coach we always knew. He still is that same guy, that attitude, the just dedication to football, to the University of Wisconsin. It was just a blast.
It's remarkable, too. His memory on things is so spot on. I think you made
I made a mistake on a year or who we were playing.
Yeah, it was Ohio State. You said 19, and he cut you off at 17.
Yeah.
Like,
I've been saying 19 for 20 years.
Sharp as a tack.
Yes.
Like, probably sharper than we are.
I guarantee that.
Hands down.
Guarantee it.
His memory is just...
Yeah, he's going back talking about high school coaches he remembers and talking about recruiting, his time at Iowa, his time at Notre Dame under Lou Holtz, just all those little details. I think I was just even excited. I knew he was laid back and he was going to be comfortable doing this just with the whole setup leading up to it. But some of the stories he told, I think that just haven't been told before, like talking about Urban Meyer's schedule. And I didn't even know Coach Alvarez and Urban Meyer had a relationship, let alone a relationship close enough where Coach Alvarez is going to call out Urban Meyer for you're working too hard.
Yeah.
You know, you need to relax. You need to celebrate the wins, enjoy the wins, and take it in. So yeah, it was great.
And I couldn't help but go back to 20 years ago when we were his players. Like, my mind went right back there. It was just like saying to coach, it's like we were in college football all over again.
Absolutely. I mean, there were times in the interview we were having a blast. We had a decent setup and a plan going in, but we also knew it was going to be a conversation. But yeah, I got nervous a couple times. Like, am I talking too much? oop, did I interrupt them there? You know, it's like, it's still Coach Alvarez to us. You know what I mean? It's still Coach.
Were you talking too much?
I know. Well, I know I do now, but
is that even, that should be on the forefront of your mind at the beginning of every one of your conversations.
I understand.
Like,
but when I take it back, and when he takes it back, the couple times I was in his office, yeah, I didn't talk that much. You know, I listened and I said yes or no, and I went about my business. You know, it wasn't like we had too many lengthy sit-down conversations over the years. And mostly when you do, we're usually the quiet little mice trying to absorb all the stories. But obviously doing a show like this, you have to talk. And, you know, and it's, you know, like, we've been having fun. But yeah, as the audience knows, like, that was our first big time guest. And we're already talking about, you know, a ton of big opportunities down the road. But yeah, so it's like you're trying to remember the questions, think about it, but you're also enjoying the moment that Coach Alvarez is sitting right here in between us. And just, we're in Naples, Florida. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
on location, 217,
on location in Naples, Florida. You know, like, we left Cabin Coffee to come to Naples, Florida to interview Barry Alvarez. Absolutely. I mean, who would have thunk that 4 months ago? You know what I mean? Like, we didn't even have a podcast 4 months ago. Didn't have a Facebook page, didn't have anything. Now, we're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're all over social media. You know, people are blowing us up. We're even connecting with old fans that, from these stories, they're bringing up memories. We're seeing it on social media. We're seeing it on direct messages and text messages. It's just an absolute blast.
And ultimately, it just shows you what a fraternity the University of Wisconsin football program has, because we're putting stuff out there, and we have our old coach on here. And the amount of feedback that we get from guys that played in our era, after us and before us, has been amazing. Because every person from every generation that played under Coach Alvarez can relate, or at least relate to college football at Wisconsin.
Absolutely. And like you said before, the fraternity, I always use the word family. Same difference. It's just, yeah, that family, that fraternity, that bond just never leaves. And I've said before, you know, I had the opportunity to play a couple years in the NFL. And that was business. Those were jobs. They were mostly coworkers. Now, yes, did I remain friends with some of them? Absolutely. But with the Badgers, you're family for life. And there's guys, we go back for events, and there's some guys you haven't seen for 20 years. And it's like it was yesterday, and you're just seeing your brother again. Doesn't matter whether they're up or down, good or bad, you're still family. You went through thick and thin together, and you're just going to be brothers for life. And it's the way it is.
It's very cool. And then obviously, off the air, we were able to go and have breakfast one-on-one with Coach and his friend Danny, and that was a cool experience.
That was awesome. Danny was absolutely wild.
The guy's got some stories. He's been around. I mean,
the stories he brought up, the stories he got Coach Alvarez talking about, and obviously some of them we got to clear with Coach before we put out there. But Coach, I don't know if he's regretting what he said now, but he's like, why didn't we just do it at my house? So we're already planning. We're going to be releasing a date probably for next year that I think we might be coming back down to Naples, but we are going to have Danny on the show.
Yeah. 100%.
Danny, when I called back to the University of Wisconsin, I guess he's known as the Greek back in Wisconsin. So I think next time we come down here, we're going to have me, you, Coach, and the Greek on the podcast and just have a blast, talk about stuff. You know, I really enjoyed his take on what's currently happening in college football, like just a different atmosphere, the NIL, the transfers. And I really liked what he said. That especially with the transfers, you're going to coach them the way you want to coach them. If they want to leave, it was almost as if he was, because he was describing him talking to the coaches within the University of Wisconsin, and he didn't say it, but it was almost like if they want to leave, fuck them, or coach better and build a better relationship with those kids.
I think that was the huge part. Your job as a coach is to build, maintain that relationship, and for you to build loyalty.
Yes,
which is what it is.
Absolutely, and like we said. You know, you brought up earlier when I think it was during our recruitments when we brought up transfers, that when we committed, we were given our word and we weren't going to go back on it. I mean, I can't even imagine how drastic something would have to be. It wouldn't be losing a starting job. It wouldn't be, you know, being a backup. I can't even imagine something so drastic where I'd say, I don't want to be here. I want to go to another college. Can't imagine that. Now, granted, I never had millions of dollars thrown in my face to go somewhere else, but I'd still like to say, with that relationship we had between us and Coach and us and our teammates, it would be very difficult, I think, for many of us to ask to go somewhere else.
I can tell you, like, I think the loyalty was very similar to military or law enforcement, which I was in. Yes. You do have those bonds when you go through the stuff that we went through, and they're still stronger than ever. And I think it's not the highlight of my life to have played under Coach Alvarez at Wisconsin, but I can tell you, it is one of the more special ones in my life.
Absolutely. And that's what's, we talked about on the podcast how he did a really good job of, we talked about like after wins, and he even brought up, which I didn't really know, and it was interesting to hear, that 93 team after 94 Rose Bowl, how he felt he and his coaching staff allowed everybody, coaches, himself, players, to enjoy that win too long and almost rest on your laurels. And he clearly did not allow that with us. And like I said, I mentioned on the show, I remember vividly him saying, all right, fellas, we're going to go home. We're going to celebrate tonight. When we're going to go home, you guys got about 2.5, 3 weeks left of winter break. You're going to celebrate. But when we come back, we are going to work, and we are going to make history by winning back-to-back in the Big Ten, back-to-back Rose Bowls. And we did. And, I'm glad, it's like everything happens for a reason. And, we want every Wisconsin team to win, but I'm glad he went through what he went through and what he learned to help us overcome that and not deal with, resting on your laurels and just continue to fight, work, and always improve your skills.
How about just his intelligence on so many things?
Yeah.
Like the game in Japan.
Yes.
And the glasses and the resetting, like your internal time clock. And he said either he read an article or heard it from NASA or somewhere, gathered this information and then implemented it, like in such a big game. Like as an outsider, you'd be like, what the hell?
Well, even talking with our Albanian friend that we have down here, we brought up what would that have looked like 30 years ago?
Right.
I mean, today, that's smart. Mm-hmm. Today, I mean, there's so many. It just seems like there's so many different titles, both at the college level, the NFL level. There's so much more technology. I mean, hell, when we were in college, and I tell this to people, when you see the players looking at stuff on the sidelines, you used to see, or I'm trying to think, maybe, did we see pictures in college? No, we just had Hubes. Hubes would just draw up the defense. So we didn't even have pictures. Hubes would draw it on a dry erase board. When I was in the NFL, you'd get two pictures. You get a picture right before the snap, so you see everybody in their stance, you see the way the defense is lined up. And then the second picture was taken maybe 2 seconds after the snap, where you could see which direction guys were going or if the linebacker was blitzing. Now they have tablets on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. They're watching the play, dragging their finger, rewinding, fast forwarding. So the technology's there. And you look back, now let's take it back to that Japan game 30 years ago to be like, I'm going to rewind my players' clocks by, he said they estimated up to 8 hours they gained, all because of wearing sunglasses. Yeah. And by the end of it, wearing them 8 hours a day to class.
I mean, and not having him sleep on the plane.
Yes.
And
while the other
the other team's on the freaking plane with them.
Yes. You know what? I did hear that a long time ago, but I forgot. And I guess it was like a 747, whatever the bigger jets were. And they were in 2 different compartments. But then hearing about our guys who are all awake, probably walking up and down the aisle, chugging water to stay hydrated. They go up there looking, they're just all passed out like it's a slumber party in the upper cabin. So for him to think all that stuff through, to be that type of coach to say, I'm going to gain any edge that I can to get a win, just unbelievable. But back bouncing around, back to that lunch. I said, I almost wish we just, like I know we got some snapshots, beautiful picture of all of us together, just showing our how grateful we were to do the show with them.
Hey, Joe, what the heck does it mean when you say Cabin Coffee Altoona is a roastery? Are you making fun of the coffee or something?
Come on now, Bill. Sounds to me like you've had one too many shots to the head. It means we're a roastery. We buy our beans green from all over the world and roast right here on site. It's the freshest coffee you can get.
Is that why one place I used to go to tasted burnt and the other place tastes like brown flavored water?
That's exactly why, Bill. So stop on down to 2922 Meadowlark Lane. Cabin Coffee Altoona. Just remember, folks, everything's better at the cabin.
But I wish we had a camera in that restaurant. Holy cow. Yeah. We think the podcast was good. The restaurant was even better than the podcast with some of the stories coming out.
Some of the stories were unbelievable.
I mean, just, him digging deeper into that first press conference, telling stories about reporters, telling stories about even the attitude he had coming in, the job offers he had and how he came here and how he was talking. He was going to turn the program around. And I guess that was the backstory. I just thought, man's got big balls coming in. He's gonna put it up and then he's gonna show it and produce afterwards. But he had many opportunities, and then the way he carried himself, people started almost going against him before he even coached the game.
Yeah,
so that sort of is what we got out of that after the interview story, is like, that's what motivated. He even said like how tired he was from all the traveling he was doing, and he had to get out to Wisconsin for that press conference. And it was the attitude that he was receiving that almost pissed him off, basically. And that's what fired him up and motivated him to make that comment. And now that comment will probably be in Wisconsin history forever. I mean, I could see 100 years from now, they still go back to that video clip, because you got to think that is when the program changed.
100%.
And we know the program, you're going to have up years, you're going to have down years. Hopefully we continue to climb and we continue to, we get to the point where we're in the playoffs and we're contending for a national championship, but we're never going to have the lows that the Badgers once had before. And it all goes to him, the foundation that he rebuilt at Wisconsin and how he wanted it to go forward. So, yeah.
And being a Wisconsin kid, watching him walk in, I saw that interview, his introductory speech to us, and I walked in, and I heard him say it, and I'm like, I hope he can do what he says he can do. And then to win the Rose Bowl in '94, there was no, he laid it out there, and then he backed it up 1,000%. There was no other school that I was going to go to. I mean, after that speech,
and he was just open-minded about things like us being close with Ron. I don't know how much people talk about this now, and maybe it was brought up early on in his career, but Ron obviously had the choice, and we're going to do an episode on Ron one of these days, hopefully even have him on the show. But Ron probably had an offer from every school in the country. And the kicker was, like Ron was a Jersey guy. So I mentioned on one podcast, that tri-state area, Penn State's the team. And Joe Paterno said, yeah, we want you here. You're going to be a fullback. And that's what every other team said to Ron. You're going to be a fullback because of his size. And the only thing Coach Alvarez said that made a difference was, we'll try you at tail, with the understanding if it doesn't work at tailback, then you're going to fullback. And Ron just said, just give me a chance. And then, Ron said that, and the rest was history with Ron. I mean, but just him being open-minded to be like, hey, we got a 260-pound kid who's crushing in high school, but can he still produce at the college level? And Coach was like, yeah, we'll give it a shot. And the other thing, and I know I'm going off topic here, but to talk about with Ron, when we do that Ron episode if we do one before we get him on the show, what's amazing about that record, and let's be clear, it is Ron Dayne that has the record. They bring up all this other BS about fucking bowls and shit and the NCAA. NCAA is a bunch NCAA assholes. That's what the NCAA is. They're out for fucking money, and that's it. They don't give a shit about anything else. They don't give a shit about the players one bit. But
it's a business.
It's 100% a business. It's a business it was a business for everybody except for the players until NIL came about. Now, granted, we both agree there needs to be some sort of cap. We can't have these like multimillionaires in college. It's gonna get carried away. I think there has to be a restriction at some point with the players.
I want a private jet.
I'd love a private jet. I'd love $1 million. I mean, how about even Ron? Like, think about that. I've joked with Ron about NIL before, but when we were playing, I mean, what did our state at the time we were playing? It was probably like around 70,000. Camp Randall. You can't tell me there wasn't at least 50,000 Ron Dayne jerseys in that stands. And I mean, and Ron's still, getting his $600 a month to pay for rent, food, whatever other expenses you have. And then, your food money runs out. All of a sudden you're D1 starting tailback leading the country and you're eating ramen noodles or whatever. I mean, so yeah, there needs to be more, but there also needs to be a limit. But I forgot where I was going. Back with Ron. Yeah, just
that's weird.
With the record. So, yeah, banged in the head a couple times. With the record, Ron didn't even start until I think the 6th game of his career. And before we do his show, I'm going to take time to do a little homework because I didn't do a lot of homework in college.
I don't think you did any homework.
I did homework. I did homework when I had to do homework. I did. But I'm going to do the math on, let alone the first 6 games, that's crazy that he didn't start the first 6 games. I want to do the math on how many games we blew people out. There was a handful of games each season where he didn't step foot on the field in the fourth quarter. There were a couple games throughout our career he didn't even step foot in the second half. So I want to start adding up quarters to be like, how much was Ron Dayne not on the field? And not saying right or wrong. I mean, we had to take him out. We had to rest him. We didn't need him to get injured. But when you look at that, it's almost like he only played 3 seasons of college football. When you take the first 6 games he didn't play, all the games that he came out in the fourth quarter or the second half, I mean, it's going to almost be like a season of football that wasn't played. Now you look at that record again and say he did it basically in 3 full seasons.
True.
I mean, but for the NCAA to say, and the whole premise of it, so the audience knows, is they're trying to not count Ron's bowl yards, which Ron blew bowl games out of the freaking water in bowl games, but they're trying to count this other kid's yards. If you count Ron's bowl yards, I think he beats the other kid by over 1,000 yards.
Right.
I mean, not even close.
Yeah.
But they want to take Ron's bowl yards away, which reduce him. Because, hell, the 2 Rose Bowls alone that we played in, Ron had over 500 yards combined in two games, over 500 yards. It's just absolute nonsense, and one of the hundreds of reasons why I hate the NCAA.
I'm not quite sure why, if it's a popularity contest, Bill. I don't know what edge are they trying to gain.
It's just the NCAA assholes. They don't give a shit about anything other than making money. That's my thing. I mean, yes, when it originated, I understand there was structure, there were rules which needed to be there, but then they took shit too far. I mean, like, to our point, even now, look, comparing NIL today to what we went through, we would have been suspended from a football game if we took a job bagging groceries at a grocery store.
Right.
That was how strict things were. Where today it's just like, oh, Joe Blow, you know, I want to give you a Lamborghini. The kid could get it. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I'm waiting to see. I pray that these schools are coaching these kids up on having CPAs and attorneys come in, setting up LLCs. Are we going to see kids going to jail in a couple of years for tax evasion? I mean, are these kids that are getting, you know, $1 million, $2 million, if they're blowing it? I mean, you get $1 million. I'm no CPA, but I'm guessing you probably got to put $300,000-$400,000 aside just for taxes. Are these kids doing it? Like, I don't know. And that's a real scary thing to say. Like, is the IRS going to be coming after hundreds, if not thousands, of college football players because of taxes?
How about the fact that you have an agent now in high school? Like, you almost have to have an agent in high school for you to be able to negotiate your NIL.
Agent, manager,
lawyer.
Lawyer. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we said it on the show or not. There's a high school basketball player. My son knew his name the other day. I can't think of his name. Cooper Cup. I don't know, whatever. But hell of a basketball player, number 1 in the country. He's making $4 million his senior year of high school.
That's crazy.
Are you shitting me? $4 million, high school kid. But I don't know. Back to this. We're just glad. So glad we're here. We're having a great time. It was awesome seeing Coach. We sent Mrs. Alvarez our best wishes. She was busy today. We didn't get to meet up. But we want to thank Linda Wilkins at the University of Wisconsin again for all the help she put into the show. And, just grateful to be here. Grateful we're doing this show. Grateful for our Albanian friend that's helped us out throughout the first couple episodes and all the back end work he's been doing and helping us sound better. We know for the people out there, we've had some ups and downs. We did get lighting. We're working to continually improve our audio, but we're getting there. We have a mission. We're putting the time in. We're researching stuff. But the biggest thing on our end, we're glad you guys are enjoying it as the audience. We're having a blast doing it. And, you know we're going to keep doing it. And like we said, already today, we got a couple ideas. We're not going to share them, but for down the road, we are committed, and I already said it, so cat's out of the bag. We are coming back here. We're going to have Coach on again, and we're, who knows? Maybe we'll do it at his place. The Greek's definitely going to be on the show, so you get to meet him, big Badger supporter. But yeah, we got a lot of things down the pipeline that we got to work out. We got people got to reach out to, but I think we're going to continue telling our story. We're going to have a bunch of different people on the show throughout episodes here and there. But we're excited what the future brings. We're excited doing it. We're really pleased that Cabin Coffee's been such a huge sponsor and supporter of us doing this. And Coach seemed real excited about the coffee. Let's bring up that. So you, as the coffee owner, giving him coffee, then what do you experience at the restaurant?
So we're a roastery, so we roast on site, though. And I roasted the coffee the day before we came out here. So we were out here yesterday, the 20th. I roasted it and had it all ground up, and just because if I'm going to give you a gift, it's going to be coffee because that's what I do.
Absolutely.
And handed him the coffee. You could smell it through the bag, and he seemed really excited about it. We go to the restaurant.
We won't say the name because we don't want to hurt their feelings.
I'm not putting anybody down. I mean, but I think Coach Alvarez experienced some of that brown flavored water that was a little weak. And
he did not like it.
He was not a fan of it, and
he even let them know it was a little bit weak too. So
he voiced his opinion. Always polite, always courteous. That the coffee was a little weak, and then he says, "I can't wait to try this." So I hope get him to be a
It sure
fan.
smelled good. Even the Greeks said the car was smelling good with that coffee in it. And it's a hell of a smell and a great tasting coffee. And it packs a punch too, which it's got that caffeine. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love it. I'm there all the time, getting as much as I could get from you.
Can't get rid of it.
Well, it's been fun.
Yeah,
We've been enjoying Naples. Stay tuned. We're going to be dropping podcasts. Our goal right now is Tuesday mornings. We're going to be airing the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to smash that follow button. You'll be seeing funny clips and little sneak peeks on social media, so stay tuned on that. Otherwise, Tuesday morning.
And again, thanks to our sponsor, Cabin Coffee, located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane in Altoona. Hey, we have a website. If you want to order some coffee from me, do that. Call me. I'll get it out to you. Super simple. And we take customer orders. So,
and Joe always does it with a smile too, just like he is here. He's always a smiling, happy guy. Thanks for tuning back.
Take care.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to Joe and I today. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. If you like what you heard, please give 217 South Mills a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Go tell your friends about us. Like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube.
I'd like to thank Cabin Coffee Altoona for sponsoring us. Everything is always better at the cabin. See you next time. And remember, folks, Red has to run.